would you introduce yourself, name kind of what classes you teach within the comm department?
Yeah, so um, I'm Neil Lewis Jr. I'm assistant professor in the department, and I teach classes in the communication and social influence area. I teach persuasion and social influence at the 2000 level. Occasionally, I teach an upper level class on behavioral science interventions. And then at the graduate level, I teach classes on research methods and attitudes in social judgment.
Great. Okay, so how did you get involved in research and what has your focal point been in your own research?
Yeah, my journey into research is somewhat of a circuitous path. I kind of fell into it when I was an undergrad. So I did my undergrad here at Cornell. I studied economics and psychology back then, with the thought at the time that I was going to become a lawyer. I think that's a common thing that students come to college thinking they're going to do. But you know, at Cornell, students can take a couple classes in the law school to get a sense of whether or not that's what you want to do. I did that and I realized I didn't want to be a lawyer. It was interesting, but I realized I didn't want to be a lawyer. So after that, tried the business route for a little bit. That also was interesting, but didn't really feel like something I wanted to do. And so then I gave research a try. I joined a lab as an undergrad, the social science research lab, and started doing work there on social networks, how people exchange information, what the implications were for things like their health and well-being, their success in education, and the like. And I really loved doing that. And so at the time, I didn't really know where it was going to go. I just knew it was something I was enjoying doing. But my advisor, really saw that passion and encouraged me to consider going to graduate school. And so I did apply and ended up going to graduate school in social psychology, where I was really interested in continuing to study those kind of dynamics with a focus on inequality. So, there are lots of unequal issues in society that really bother me. I want to understand better, try to figure out solutions for them. And so that's why I went to grad school to really study how to come up with solutions to some of these problems in education, problems in health, problems around environmental justice. And so that's how my career started and really has continued. So after that, I came back to Cornell and the Department of Communication, where that is a big sort of focus of what a lot of us do. We do research not just for the sake of advancing knowledge, which that is important in and of itself, but there are many of us who also have this sort of focus on research with a public purpose, really trying to address issues in society. And so I continue to do research in that realm, studying the unequal dynamics of the society we live in and trying to develop interventions to try and change them.
Thank you. That's amazing. I know like me personally, like in high school, I took classes that really focused on like racial justice and kind of social movements and kind of where we are now compared to like back then. And I think doing research on that focus like area is really interesting and
Yeah,
important.
I mean, that's a thing that it's important to understand that trajectory, right? So there's certainly been lots of progress that's been made in society over time, but there are lots of issues that still remain. So, why are both of those things true? How can those things be true at the same time? Like, what's the trajectory that got us from where we were to where we are now? And what might that mean for where we might end up in the future? Those are some of the kinds of questions that interest and excite me.
Mm. Yeah, that's amazing. So my second question kind of dives more into what you're researching now. So, what got you interested in focusing your research on biases found in our systems and the contradictions of American ideology that preaches equality and justice? And based on that, what kind of research have you been conducting with this topic?
Yeah, so I mentioned this sort of the background of how I got into this stuff. And one of the things that's always been striking to me is the disconnect between what we say we value and these outcomes that we see over and over again in society. So, I'm an immigrant in this country, so I came here as a kid, and part of the process of becoming an American citizen, which I am now, the is you have to study a lot of like the history of the United States, its governing documents, and like. And when you read all of those documents over and over again, you see this consistent theme from the very beginning. All men are created equal, equal protection under the law. There are all these things that are in these documents that govern our society about equality is what we value. Right? All people are created equal. But then you look at so many outcomes in American society. You look at our education outcomes, you see massive inequalities. You look at our health outcomes, you see massive inequality. You look at environmental outcomes, you see massive inequality. You look at criminal justice, you just see this in so many domains. And that contrast is just interesting to me. Like, how can we sort of keep saying these things over and over, and we value these things, but when we look at our own data, we see that the data is at odds with what our values. So how do Americans make sense of that? From a psychological perspective, that kind of thing should produce dissonance, right? So we teach this in persuasion and social influence and other classes in the department. That kind of disconnect should produce a lot of dissonance in people's minds and create a desire to reduce that distance, to change something. Either you should stop saying you value those things if your behaviors and outcomes are not aligned with that, or you change your behaviors to make them in alignment with your values. But maintaining these two things just seems at odds. And so I've just been curious about that. And so I've been conducting studies for the past few years, really trying to understand how it is that we can manage to hold these two things together. What do particularly Americans think when they see this data? One, are they aware of this? Two, what do they think when you make them aware of it? What does it motivate them to want to do? And what kind of changes that can you get out of that? And I've also been interested in whether or not those kinds of dynamics vary depending on which outcomes we're talking about. So do people think about these things differently in education than they do in health? Do they think about them differently in an environmental realm? The past couple of years, we've also been looking at it in the criminal justice realm. Just getting a sense of what that bigger picture is, and is it the same or different in these domains, is sort of what we've been focusing on lately.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I liked how you kind of made that connection too of like what we're teaching in the comm department. I think everything that we've learned so far in our classes, it's like when it comes to communication, it's very like complex. Like it seems like visual comm, like, oh, you're just like looking at images, but we really dive into that idea of like what are people taking out of this? What's the intended messages?
Yeah.
And I think it's very interesting too with your research how we're kind of seeing this disconnection between what people are saying and what people are doing.
Yeah, I mean those disconnects are revealing of something else must be going on, right? That given what our theories say should happen, there must be something that we don't understand yet, or some other kind of process that's relevant here. Because again, the way that these theories have been outlined, you shouldn't see these things persistently happening over and over again. That should produce some kind of dissonance that should be reduced. And so if it's not, then that means we need to learn something more and try to address that gap in knowledge.
Yeah. And based on your research, what would you say the most interesting finding has been?
So over the past couple of years, I've been most interested in just how much geography and other forms of social segregation, frankly, affects these kinds of things, right? That there are many Americans that are really unaware of many of these inequalities that I'm talking about. And we've looked into this in a number of different ways. Sometimes when we talk about inequality and people say they didn't know, some respond with a sense of skepticism, like, how could you not know? And what we've been finding lately is that there are actually lots of reasons that people wouldn't know, right? So if you look at the neighborhoods that people live in, that's one thing we've been studying a lot over the past few years. Neighborhoods in the United States today are still extremely segregated by race and class. The schools that we go to still highly segregated by race and class. There's some new papers over the past year or two about the social clubs and things. So think golf courses and country clubs, tennis clubs, all of those things, highly segregated context. So if you live in these different bubbles where you're really not interacting with people that are very different than you, then it's actually really hard to know what those different experiences are like, what those outcomes are like. So that's one thing that's been interesting. But then the other piece that we've been diving into a lot over the past 2 to 3 years, especially, is how the media ecosystem affects this too. So if you don't have that direct experience in life, you don't see people who are different than you because they're just not in your neighborhood, they're not in your schools and so on. Then the way that you would learn about other people's experiences is through this indirect path, right? Through the media. Well, what the media does and doesn't cover then continues to perpetuate these kinds of gaps. And so these are some of the things that I've been finding really interesting over the past couple of years, is just what are the mechanisms that, for lack of a better term, like maintains ignorance in some ways, and then what can we do to address those things if we want to move forward and address these issues.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Like, especially with the whole like neighborhood and like where people really their environment, what kind of influences their kind of like thoughts and like view of the world.
Mhm.
And with that, what is the overall importance of your research and how do you see this work impacting the field?
Yeah, I think my work does two things. One, it helps us to get a better understanding of how these complex forces work together, right? So, um, one of the things that I do a lot of is really try to study these issues with multiple methods and from multiple perspectives. So I'm not just studying, hey, what do you think about this? You can sort of study things at a very individual level and just look at people's perceptions. I do that. That gives us some information. But then I'm also looking at the geospatial data. Where are people actually living? And then sampling people from different places to see, does where you're living affect the way that you're thinking about things? There's sometimes looking at physiological data. So we've done some eye tracking studies to see, what do you actually pay attention to when you're in this context, and seeing this different kind of information. So pulling together all of these pieces that are traditionally studied in isolation, I think gets us a more holistic understanding of what's going on and why we see these patterns over and over again. So that's one piece. The other piece is, once you get a better understanding of those mechanisms, it helps you to figure out what can be done, right? So if you don't understand how things actually work, it's harder to generate effective solutions, right? This is something we've been talking about in persuasion and social influence over the past couple of weeks, right? Is what is the value of theory? I mean, there's theory for the sake of knowledge, but it also can give you a roadmap figuring out what the levers are for change. And so I'm very interested in the change that my research can produce, but you really need to understand those mechanisms in order to be able to figure out how to change things. So that's the other contribution I see my work making to the field and the broader world.
Yeah, and I love how throughout your research you're kind of taking all these different methods to kind of produce kind of a holistic view of what your research has to offer. Because I know through some of my classes and having to read research articles and journals, oftentimes it's like one specific method, and it's like from then on, other research are able to kind of pull from this research and then try another method.
Yeah, I mean, different methods have every method has its strengths and its weaknesses, right? And so one of the things that's helpful then is to take a more pluralistic view of trying to understand what can we learn from these different methods, right? So I was trained primarily as an experimentalist, as I run a lot of experiments, but there are lots of things that experiments can't teach us, right? And sometimes you need to do some interviews, you need to do some focus groups, you need to do some surveys, and each of those things teach you something else. But when you put them together, you can get a much broader understanding of what's going on than if you rely on any one method.
Thank you for sharing that. So we're coming down to our final questions, and this is shifting more to how students can get involved and like why research is important. So, why should students be interested in research?
There are a couple of reasons that I think students should be interested in research. One, much of your life is um, affected by what happens in research, right? So you will all live in societies that are governed by some sort of governance structure and work in institutions that have to make decisions. And more, there's a reliance on evidence-based decision making, which is another way of saying, what does the research say about what we should do? So people are making all kinds of decisions about your lives based on research that's being produced. So you should know something about that knowledge production process. So what did they actually do in these research studies? Are those claims justified? This is another thing we talk about in the persuasion class a lot. You'll see lots of headlines in the newspaper. Research says, did it really? Like you should be, you know, effective consumers of that research so that you know whether or not those claims are justified because they're going to be affecting your lives. They also provide that it also provides opportunities for you to know how to ask better questions later in your life. So many of you will end up in these decision-making roles where you have to decide one course of action versus another. Knowing how to structure the question so that you know what you should be asking about and what kind of information you would need to make a good decision that is something we practice a lot in research, and getting into that habit can be very helpful to you, regardless of whether you have a quote unquote research career. I think you can use these skills in many areas of life.
I know oftentimes when it does come to like research, data literacy is kind of a very key thing and skill to have. How can students develop or strengthen their data literacy skills?
Yeah, I think there are a few different things students can do, and there are frankly more and more opportunities every day. Of course, we have research methods classes in the department and around the university. We have all of you take at least one, but one is a minimum. It's not a maximum. You can certainly take more courses in these areas. But getting involved in research labs gives you opportunities to get hands-on experience with that. Getting involved with some of the clubs and organizations on campus where you're working with, real world data for that club or that organization, that's another way to sort of enhance your data literacy skills. So you want these opportunities to not just read about data and read about the results from it, but to really get some practice working with data and seeing what it can teach you.
Thank you. I know that like I especially that's something that I want to work on, and throughout my classes I kind of saw the value of like data literacy and kind of how sometimes um it's kind of disproportionate of like kind of this idea of like research and kind of um communicating it where like a variety of people would like
Mhm.
understand.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a world that is incredibly data rich, and the amount of data being generated just keeps growing exponentially, right? We are on this call, having this conversation. There is data being generated in that process, right? Zoom will know how long we were on here, and all these other metrics that are tracked behind the scenes, right? That is data, right? And those kinds of systems we've learned, especially over the past few years, how they can be used in different ways. So there are some organizations that have been using that to track productivity, right? That's a form of data that companies use. So you're going to be engaging with data one way or another, and I think it's helpful to know something about what might be going on there.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And my final two questions are, how early can students at Cornell get involved in research? And if students are interested in your research, how can they get involved?
Yeah, so students can get involved in research right away if they want to. There are many opportunities to get involved. I think one of the things that can be helpful is really reaching out to faculty and programs around the university that look interesting to you and see if there are opportunities available, right? So not everyone is going to be hiring research assistants every semester. It sort of depends on what projects are going on and how much need there is and so on, and how much capacity they have to advise these students. So they're like, those are some things you can do those, reach out and see. Some labs also have different requirements. Some might want you to like take a couple classes first before you get involved in research, whereas others are more open to taking younger students and sort of training them up from there. So there's wide variety, just really depends on the needs of the lab or other programs. In my research, that's another thing that it varies across time, right? So I generally, when I take new students, I'm on the side of taking students on the earlier end. Like I like to admit freshmen and the sophomores in the lab who are going to be around for a while, because sort of just training you to do stuff can take a while. So I tend to be on the side of taking younger students rather than more senior students. But there from time to time there are opportunities for very senior students too. So again, it's just it's reaching out and seeing what opportunities are there. For one of the things students I think don't see much of is the behind the scenes on the professor side of how the research process works. You see us in classes, but when we're not teaching classes, we're working on these projects and writing grants and things, and those things come in at different times. So you might not have had a position for new research assistants, at one point when a student reached out, but the next semester you got a grant and suddenly you need to hire, four new people to help working on this project. So I don't want students to be discouraged if, the first time they reach out, the answer is no. Like that doesn't mean it's a no forever. It's just opportunities come and go, and so some persistence helps.
Yeah, for me, I know that like reaching out to professors could be a little intimidating, but so far everyone that I've talked to and reached out to has been very welcoming and informative of the different opportunities across like Cornell.
Yeah, there are tons of opportunities to get involved, and so there's opportunities in the department. There are opportunities across the university. One of the things this university is known for is opportunities for undergraduates to get involved in research. We have one of the highest proportions of undergrads who get involved in research of any university in the country. So there are plenty of opportunities here to get involved if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Again, thank you so much, Professor Lewis, for taking the time out of your day to have this interview with me and informing communication students and majors about the different ways they could get involved in research and how essential it is for all of us.
Happy to talk. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you.